Welcome to Stackware's presentation on the Colorado Artificial Intelligence Act, also known as Senate Bill 24-205. This law is vastly reshaping the American AI governance landscape. And in this talk, I'll go over the requirements of the law and some key steps you can take to help comply with it. All right, so just as a caveat, this is not legal, financial, or accounting advice. And if that's what you're looking for, please find the appropriate person. So, a little bit of history. The Colorado legislature approved this bill in May of 2024. And then the governor of Colorado signed it about a month later. But interestingly enough, in early 2025, there was a bipartisan legislative council staff report from the state of Colorado that highlighted a series of open questions about the law, what the definitions meant, what the requirements meant, and teed up a set of proposals to amend the law prior to it going into effect on February 1st, 2026. Now, unfortunately for some, these attempts to amend the law prior to it coming into force failed, and it looks like the law is set to come into effect in early 2026. So, to talk about what it requires, let's go over a couple of the key definitions. So, the law does define what an artificial intelligence system is, and this is quite similar to the European Union AI Act definition of an AI system. So SB205 has quite a bit of influence from the EU's law, as you can see from its definition, from its use of the term high risk artificial intelligence system, and you'll see that approach throughout the legislation. So a key distinction or a key definition is that of high risk artificial intelligence. And this is any AI system that makes or is a substantial factor in making a consequential decision. So the term substantial factor and consequential decision are defined. However, there still is some gray area about exactly what these things mean. So, what is a substantial factor? That's a good question. The law does define it. Some key things to focus on are that it includes any use of an AI system to generate any content decision prediction or recommendation concerning a consumer that's used as a basis for making a consequential decision. So we'll talk about those definitions in a little bit, but it includes any use of AI to generate any content decision prediction or recommendation concerning a consumer. So that's a pretty broad scope for this law. A consequential decision is anything that has material, legal, or similarly significant effects on the provision or denial or cost or terms of several conditions of services. So there's some key components here. It's provision or denial or the cost or terms of. So that means if you increase pricing using an AI system or you decrease pricing, if you change the conditions of an interaction with a consumer, then that would fall under the law's definition of a consequential decision. So, in terms of what areas are covered, there's a list of things here. These are kind of the usual suspects. Some of these are government services, so not really applicable to private industry, but insurance, healthcare, finance or lending, these are all things that companies are going to need to deal with as the law rolls out. And then finally, what's a consumer? A consumer is a Colorado resident. So that's pretty clear. When you're building your compliance procedures for this law, You'll probably want to think about, are you just going to apply this to everyone, or are you going to try to pick out Colorado consumers or residents from your customer base? My recommendation is, unless it has to do with a reporting requirement to the state, don't try to pick and choose the Colorado consumers and apply your procedures specifically for them. It would just get way too complex, and the likelihood of you missing someone is quite high. So now that we've established the definitions, what does the law require? Both developers and deployers of high-risk artificial intelligence systems have a duty of care to avoid algorithmic discrimination. This is a term that the law creates, and its definition is here. So it lays out a wide set of potential characteristics of a person against which you cannot discriminate unlawfully. So it's interesting to state here that it says unlawful differential treatment. So there are conceivably lawful differential treatments that you could make using your high-risk AI system, but we'll get into the categories of characteristics which you cannot make unlawful differential treatment decisions. So these are kind of the usual suspects. Again, pretty standard. And then this catch-all at the end. Okay, so now that you know what you need to do, how do you comply with this law? So there are a couple requirements, and we'll talk more about the specific ones, but at a high level, some things you can do to comply are maintaining an ISO 42001 or NIST AI RMF compliant risk management program. These standards are specifically called out in the law as providing safe harbor under certain circumstances. Reporting known or foreseeable instances of algorithmic discrimination to the Colorado Attorney General, providing consumers with information about high-risk AI systems, and then not specifically a requirement, but something that will potentially give you safe harbor is conducting red teaming and adversarial testing of your high-risk AI systems. The law also creates categories of two different types of entities: developers and deployers. And organizations can be both developers and deployers, or they can be just one. Developers need to provide extensive documentation to deployers about how their system is designed and is supposed to operate. And then deployers need to do impact assessments and allow for opt-out in certain circumstances, allowing for human review if technically feasible, although that term is not defined. I would recommend looking at Stackaware's developer and deployer procedures for detailed guidance on how to meet these requirements. So what if you don't comply with SB 205? According to the law, a person is engaging in a deceptive trade practice when they violate the law's requirements. So what does that mean? They're not specified in terms of penalties, but historical Colorado AG enforcement actions over a 2-year period averaged 0.3% of annual revenue based on Stackaware's calculations, which you can see in the hyperlink at the bottom of this slide. So for a $1 billion annual revenue company, this would be about $3 million, which is a substantial fine for noncompliance. So if you need help getting ready for Colorado SB 205, please do use Stackaware's free resources. However, if you're looking for white glove services to help build an effective AI governance program that will help you tackle the law's requirements and more, then please do book a call. Thanks.